Welcome to today's video. I'm going to be creating some more nail polishes using some of my eyeshadow pigments as well as the TKB trading nail polish base. I have done a video like this previously, which I will link down in the description box in case you're interested in seeing what color nail polishes I came up in that video, which in that one I feel like some of the shades ended up being a little bit too similar. So today's video, the theme is Halloween. So I want to create some fun Halloween nail polishes, and it's going to be a little bit different this time. So I'm going to be creating 4 total nail polishes. They are in this small. I believe these each hold 5 milliliters and they're from Amazon. So in these two, I'm going to be using some pigments only. And then for these two, I fill these with some non-shimmer already made nail polishes. Both of them are from Clionadh, and those each hold 11.5 milliliters. So this is probably about half of those. I really wanted to experiment in mixing some iridescent shimmers in here and adding kind of like a little bit of a flare. So we have a black and an orange, very on theme. And as per usual, I have some mixing sticks. I have these measurement spoons, which I'm going to be only using this one. And I also have this kind of spatula. In some of the nail polish making videos, I've seen people just kind of put the pigment on top of here and then put it into the jar. So we're going to be trying that out today. Maybe that will make it a little bit easier. Because I feel like the little scoop is not really that ideal. So I definitely want to create a nail polish with this multi-chrome from ProGlitz. It's called Wickedness. And it's basically that black to red shifting multi-chrome with a little bit of like a green flash straight on. So really want to make a spooky nail polish with that using one of these. These are from TKB Trading, and these are just 2 pigment samples. I have Wood Brown and Smoky XXX, and I thought these would be interesting mixed with some iridescent shades. So first I'm going to be using the Wickedness pigment. I think the process of actually making the eyeshadow is quite simple, as long as you already have the nail polish base and you have some loose pigments. I did touch on this in the previous video, so I just want to repeat it, but you can use eyeshadows that are pressed. However, those have binders in them, and that is not really the best thing for mixing with a nail polish base. The pigment will definitely start to separate. I showed an example of that. So I would not recommend using pressed eyeshadow for making nail polishes, but it's definitely possible. It's just not ideal. So I just put a bunch of that pigment in here, and we'll see if that's enough. And I'm gonna put in the nail polish base. So now I'm just going to fill this pretty much all the way up to the top. And I think that's pretty good. So now I'm gonna take one of my little sticks and just start mixing. I could just put the brush back in and shake it because it does have the metal ball in it. However, I find that takes a lot of effort to mix it that way, and this is just faster, more efficient, and it just does a way better job. I actually think I can add a little bit more of the liquid in here. I can see that it's not filled all the way to the top. That looks really interesting. Just gonna add a little bit more, but then I will be just shaking this. Don't want to overfill it either because you are going to be putting the brush in. Ooh, that is really fun looking. I did bring the camera in just a little bit, hopefully to give you a better view of everything. So next I'm going to mix some pigment into the already pre-made black nail polish, and that one has no shimmer in it. And I'm going to be using this pigment called Grim Geranium from Dieverune Cosmetics. I did get this in PR. I also got this one in PR, and I'm gonna take the sifter off, and I mean, look at that sparkly pigment. So this one's gonna be a little bit trickier. As you can see, obviously the nail polish is going all the way up to the top, so I'm actually just gonna wipe this just a little bit on the edges and on the inside so that I don't get my tool too dirty. I'm gonna wipe it off, and we're just gonna use this again. I really like the way that worked. And I'm just gonna be slowly adding in. I'm really hoping it adds just like a little bit of like a flare to this one. So I don't know how much to put in, but I'm just gonna keep scooping. And I would assume the more the better. Obviously not too much so it doesn't change the consistency of the nail polish. But let's just see, let's just give this one a little mix, see if it does anything. Oh yeah, it's definitely starting to add. Kind of see it on the bottom here. I feel like I'm going to be adding a lot of pigment into this, as it is just so concentrated. So I'm really just gonna load this up. I don't plan on putting this pigment on my eye, so I'm not really concerned if I get a little bit of the nail polish in here. I think it'll be fine. This is just for the nail polish now. I can see it over here on the edges and it looks really interesting. It's just like not translating. So maybe this is not gonna work as well as I was hoping, but I didn't have any matte pigment to mix in. So let me actually just see if I can shake it with a ball in there. And maybe I can get the pigment to kind of show up more. So after much shaking, I did end up putting in even more pigment and shaking it some more. So that definitely helped, and I can, for sure, I could see the multichrome pigment in there now, and it looks really, really cool. So it's kind of like pink flashing on, and then it shifts to green to gold. And it is super fun. I can't wait to see this on the nails. Really hoping it translates because I have no idea. I'm sure if you're a professional nail polish maker and you're watching this, you're probably cringing. For the next nail polish, I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the Smoky sample. And I'm going to mix it with this loose pigment from Bella Beaute Bar. This is the shade Rain. I did check online and it doesn't look like it's available on their website. It was kind of in between Rain and Maple. I actually believe it's one or the other that's not on the website anymore, so I'm not sure even if it's available. And this one has a holographic effect, so I thought that'd be really cool to add in and just create a very grungy kind of, oh yeah, it's also a little bit silver. Oh, that's gonna be really fun. Wiped off my spatula and it's getting real messy over here. Actually, I looked inside of this and it's not as dark as I want it to be, so I'm gonna actually opt for the wood brown. And this one has a little bit of a sheen to it, which I don't think is a bad thing. So I'm going to put in a little bit of that. Honestly, haven't really figured out the ratio because I'm just kind of playing around, having fun with this. I feel like that's too much, too much. Let me just a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'm going to add in this much and then we'll see. And then I'm gonna go into this one. Ooh, that is so ultra sparkly. That's gonna be really fun. And I'm really gonna load that in there. Because so far what I have definitely learned is that this will probably, oops. I forgot that was open. That will definitely overpower it. So I'm gonna try to avoid that to an extent. And just filling, hopefully you can see that. And I'm gonna take my mixie stick, that is the official name, and just mix these together. I feel like this one gives me like witchy warlock kind of vibe with the brown and then the hollow in it. This would be an amazing eyeshadow. Actually, I'm not really sure if I have any hollow brown eyeshadows. Oh, I do. Dualism Beauty has done those before. So I'm just mixing that, and I was definitely correct in the brown is going to take over. So I'm actually going to add more of the hollow pigment before I continue fully mixing. Just a bit more. Loading that up. Kind of want it to be like a nice in-between. So I don't really want either of them to take over. Like, I don't want it to just look silvery. I want to be able to see the brown. Oh, this shade looks really interesting. Okay, I'm going to shake it. Now I can definitely see the hollow, which is super fun. So I'm going to just pop that in there and we're going to shake. And here's what that one looks like mixed in. Cannot wait to see that on the nails. So for the orange nail polish, I was really stuck between adding in a green flashing pigment and a purple. Now, I feel like this one has some green in it, so I didn't want to risk this looking similar to this, even though this flashes pink straight on. But the thing is, the pigment looks pretty green, like in the jar. So I think the purple might be cool, though I'm not sure if this purple is maybe just a little too opaque, but I feel like it's going to actually complement it. So I guess we'll find out. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error here. And as I learned with the black nail polish, I'm going to be adding in quite a bit of pigment into this to really make sure that it shows up when I mix it in. And I forgot to mention the name of the shade, but it doesn't have a name on the bottom, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna leave it at that and let's see what happens. So I'm gonna first take my stick and just try to mix it. I feel like when I did this with the black, it was actually better to just shake it and have the little ball disperse it. And it kind of dispersed it basically inside to out. But when I take this out, actually all I see is still orange. So might need to add more pigment. Let me just wipe off the top though. Way more pigment. Really want to make sure that I can see the purple. So I'm gonna add this on and I'm just gonna shake it. So I added a lot more pigment into this to be able to see it. So you can kind of see the brighter purple straight on, and then it does shift to a pink, like a magenta pink. So I'm excited to see on the nail. First up is going to be this nail polish. It's going to be pretty subtle. Oh yeah, it's quite subtle. I actually think I'm going to add more. I was definitely hoping for a bit more. And the next one is the black to red multi-chrome, and that one's going to go on this finger. Interesting how this one is not as opaque, so that one's gonna need another layer. Next up is the hollow. Ooh, this one's fun. It's like a smoky sparkle. Gonna need a second layer on that one as well. And then the orange, I definitely think this is gonna be extremely subtle. I can see it a little bit. I added a second coat of each of these. I don't really love the way this one came out. I have noticed applying it that it looks like the texture changed because of the pigment in it, which is interesting because it's not like a slightly flaky pigment like this one. It's basically like super finely milled flakies essentially, and this one is like a true more like mica, very finely milled. But it definitely changed the consistency because of how much I put into it. So I don't think it was the right pigment. I think I should have added in a much more iridescent type of shimmer, but I think this would have worked out had I been making the orange and the iridescent and the purple from scratch versus it's already a created color. There's a certain amount of that pigment in there and I'm just adding to it, so the ratio is just not correct from the bat. But nevertheless, it was fun. So I did wipe off these two nails because I added more pigment. So it should be more, oh yeah, definitely way more opaque upon first application. I will probably add another one just to make it way more opaque, but this one came out really nice. And I also added more pigment to this one. And this one, I feel like the consistency has changed because it's like a little bit lumpy because of the type of pigment. So keeping that in mind, and also think that this is one of those situations where I think the black is just swallowing the flakies and coating them, so they're really hard to see, which is too bad because you can really see it in the bottle. And I have noticed that sometimes with some of the multi-chrome nail polishes I have gotten that are a bit more of unconventional colors, I have noticed that you really see the base predominantly, and then the shine is really only in certain angles and certain lighting. So it does seem to be common, but I really wish that my nail looked like this right now. So here's a closer look at what those shades look like. Really love how this one came out. Just like smoky with hollow in it. And then here's this one, you really can't see. So I'm adding another light that's much brighter to hopefully bring it out. You can kind of see it in there. And then this one you can start to see the shift to the red. Don't mind my application, it's a little bit messy. It did lose some shine though. It's not very shiny, and that's because this pigment is not very shiny itself. Seems to be more or less the theme with this kind of shade. And then here's the hollow. Doesn't really have too much of a shift, but it just has that hollow sparkle in it. And then last up, you can kind of see the purple, but it's very subtle. Very subtle. And then here's a close-up of each of the bottles. See how cool that looks in the jar? You could just see the multi-chrome in there, but because it is so subtle, even just in the jar, it makes it even more subtle on the nail. And then here's the red-black multi-chrome. The hollow grayish-brown. And then the black, pink, green. See the shift on this side. on this angle, you can start to see kind of all the shifts that are happening in there. It's been a lot of trial and error with making these nail polishes. I think generally speaking, it's been easier to just use a straight up pigment with a nail polish base. It does for me get a little bit more complicated and complex when you already have a shade. I hope this video was fun to watch, and let me know which of the nail polishes I created you like the most, if any. Unfortunately, I think these two are not very successful, but it's part of the learning process. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.